Hi. Make sure we have good volume. Hello, everyone. I am excited to have this chat. This is the Unfiltered Postpartum series. This is a series that I started not too long ago where weekly we chat with folks about how they navigated postpartum and a lot of other things. I am Kayla Bitten. I am the founder of the Postpartum Clinic, and we have the Shea Mom joining us today. Hopefully, it worked. Yes.
Hey, it's working.
I know, finally. How are you? I haven't seen you via video chat in so long.
I know, it's been a minute. It's last
How are
year.
you?
I'm
Right,
doing
literally.
well. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How was the move?
It's going well. We haven't officially moved into the new house just yet. It's still being constructed. We do our walkthrough this week. So hopefully they are done so we can get out of my dad's house.
That's good. That's exciting. I heard good things about like Nashville, and honestly, that's one of the places that I want to visit. Um,
Yes, come and visit.
so I'm super excited to have you here. Like I was explaining before, y'all, Unfiltered Postpartum is a series that I started not too long ago where I invite folks within the space, the postpartum clinic space, and we chat about things that you navigate during postpartum. And so today we're chatting with Gretchen Moore of the Shea Mom. It's an amazing blog centered around postpartum, but also just Black mom joy, which I'm super excited about, and it's always good to see. So why don't you tell us about you, who you are, what you do, all that good jazz.
Yes, so I am Gretchen Moore. I founded the Shea Mom blog last summer during the pandemic. Um, I'll talk a little bit about that later, but I'm originally from Bowling Green, Kentucky. So anybody that's on here from Kentucky, hello. I graduated from Western Kentucky University, Go Tops, which since being here in Bowling Green, the campus is amazing. Like it's completely different from when I graduated way back a couple of years ago. So I'm excited to be back around family. So we just recently moved. We lived in Birmingham, Alabama, and now we are in between Kentucky and Nashville until our house is complete. I have two beautiful boys, Jackson, who was born right in the middle of the pandemic, which is wild and crazy. We had him at home, a home birth with a midwife who, amazing team. It was crazy. We haven't told our complete birth story yet because we've just been busy with other things. And so, but I'm excited to be here to talk about all things postpartum and just to share my journey.
You're right. I haven't heard your first story yet, but the photos alone were beautiful. And so I hope it was a great experience, at least. Um, so why don't you tell us what inspired you to start the Shea Mom?
So what inspired me to start the Shea Mom is so the pandemic, I think there was rumblings about, we're going to be under a global pandemic like in February. And we were all like, nah. And then in March, there was some more rumblings. And then towards the end, it was like lockdown. And we hadn't announced yet that we were expecting. And so once we knew, okay, we're going to be in lockdown and we're expecting, I spoke to my husband about it and one of my good friends, and I said, I think we should start a blog. And I want to start it by sharing my journey with Clarkson and just my experience. And I basically, so have you ever seen the show This Is Us? And so I had the mind frame from the show This Is Us that I wanted to backlog everything. I wanted to backtrack and then bring things to current and go back and forth. And that's a little bit of what we've been doing with the blog. And so I didn't want women to feel how I felt. I kind of felt like I was in a glass box and I was trapped and everything around me was happening and I was just seeing it, but I couldn't feel. And I didn't want people to feel that way. I wanted people to understand what anxiety looked like so that they could understand how they were feeling, because I didn't know how I was feeling, because I didn't even know what it was. So it was important for me because, one, I knew women would be isolated by themselves, first time moms. And I said, if I get my story out there to enough people, raise enough awareness, when people start the feeling of depression, anxiety, maybe someone will share my story of how I overcame. And now I'm having my second child and they say, oh, she overcame it. Maybe I can too. And so that was the whole basis behind starting the Shea Mom, and it's just grown and grown and grown from there.
It really, hi everyone. It really has. I do remember when we first touched base about it. Actually, you weren't the person that showed me your stuff. Um, what's her name was on the tip of my tongue. Alicia. Alicia was the first person to send me your blog post, which is the first blog post, which was kind of sort of like, hi, my name is Gretchen. I'm here. This is why I've created this space. And it was really refreshing to see. And I remember it going, at least in all of the little Black spaces that we have here in Alabama, because we think it's big, but really there's not many of us. So at least not within the realm that we're in, where we're like
Yeah.
advocating for certain things. And when I saw it, I was like, okay. And it was great to like see and, like I said, connect with you. But so let's talk about your experience with postpartum, perinatal mental health, postpartum depression, anxiety, any of those things that you experienced that also put that fire under you to create the space like the Shea Mom.
Yeah, so I would say my first interaction with a therapist was not, it was for the birds. It was not great. And so I felt like from that first interaction, I was like, I'm not going to therapy, I'm not doing this. Because I felt like I needed someone who looked like me, someone who looked like me, who understood what I was going through, and who I could connect with. And I think that's the main thing with the Shea Mom is getting my story out there, getting other women's stories out there, and sharing so that people can feel a connection. Um, Therapy is a term that a lot of people throw around, but Black people haven't been talking about it as much. It's been like, oh, that's a white thing, you know? And so I think when the more people of color, Black women in particular, the more we talk about it, the more we are more likely to go seek these services. And because we haven't sought out these services before, there's so many stigmas around it. And so it's really about destigmatizing mental health and breaking it down to where we don't see mental health as just like, I'm going to go get my nails done. Instead, that's your mental wellness, but your mental health is sitting down, speaking to a therapist, expressing your feelings, being able to talk through and have critical conversations to work through your traumas, because life in general is, for a Black woman in particular, is hard. And so being able to sit down with someone who looks like you, who can relate, is a game changer, in my opinion. So that was like the driving force of starting the Shea Mom. I struggled for a while with my anxiety, not really feeling like anyone understood what I was going through. Hair loss. And this is before actually having the baby, I was having hair loss. So having the ability to speak to someone who looked like me, who could understand what I was going through, really helped me out.
I think you hit the nail on the head. I think that there is this culture. Everything has a culture to it, unfortunately. And when I say culture, I don't necessarily mean it in a negative way, but it's a band-aid culture where
Mm-hmm.
we look at therapy, we look at seeking out mental health support in a way that's a band-aid. So yeah, getting your nails done. I'm gonna meet up with my girls. I need this. I need a mental health day, but that looks like a regular Saturday that you're going out and doing certain things. It's so I think that's really important for you that you touched on, and it's really important that you touched on it specifically pertaining to Black folks, Black birthing folks, pregnant moms, postpartum moms, whomever, because those spaces, I think we get scared, and I understand why we get scared. We're not listened to. We're told that we should get over these things, or these things didn't exist within our realm. So, for example, just being pregnant, talking about trying to get pregnant, whatever the case may be, even if you're not there yet or you are there, the amount of trauma and the amount of anxiety, the amount of depression that comes into play when you're looking at all of the numbers, when you're looking at your mom and her birthing experience, and then it's embedded into you, and then you're seeing it outside of you, and then now you're supposed to be experiencing this thing. It can be quite daunting, actually.
Yeah.
So I think it's like I said, really amazing. Unfortunately, there are not a lot of folks who advocate for that, especially from first person. I'm not pregnant, haven't been pregnant. I was on a short TTC journey, took a break because of mental health, but my experience or where I'm coming from for advocating and activism or whatever you call it comes from a perspective that's not first person. And more often than none, that's kind of where we come from, which is great. But to hear firsthand from someone like you and it's first person, it's really refreshing and it's really great to see. And more so, it helps out the community of Black mothers and parents who are like, oh, okay, well, she's coming out and saying it and she didn't combust. So I can probably, do the same thing. So,
Yeah.
from your experience, what do you think most folks could use the most support with when navigating their perinatal mental health, like postpartum depression and postpartum anxiety?
Support. Because I was once that person to be like, oh, I'm fine, everything's good, I don't need help. Lies. And so support is like the number one thing that anyone needs during the pregnancy and after for a complete year. Because in that time frame, in that full year after you have the baby, there's so many different transitions. And so, for example, right now we're in the teething transition. So Jackson is teething and he has 3 teeth coming out the top all at the same time. It's bananas. And so just navigating that support, thank God, we have family around, right? And so we got the teething Orajel, we got the baby teething rings, we have all those things, but throughout that entire full year, you need support. And support looks different for everyone, right? My support is going to look different from the next mom's support. But you still need it, even if it's just a friend to come over and say, hey girl, let me take your laundry and I'm gonna take it home. I'm gonna wash it, I'm gonna dry it, I'm gonna fold it, I'm gonna bring it back. Just that small thing can change someone's whole entire day of just taking the load off. And so I think it's so important that we provide support and we listen to people. When you listen to someone and they are sharing their story or how they feeling, that helps. Even if it's a bizarre, like, I don't know, this don't sound right. Taking your time to listen helps someone because it shows that I believe you. I believe what you're going through and I hear you. I hear what's happening. How can I help? That is a game changer too for any woman who's going through postpartum depression. It helped me. It helped me to have people that surrounded me, like towards once I started opening up, to say, tell me, like, just tell me what happened. Tell me what you're experiencing. And the moment they started to ask me questions and I could put words to it, because I couldn't put words to it, I didn't know how to describe it. But the moment I was able to start putting words to it, it was like, okay, let's see what we can do, So I think it's so important to listen to people and support them. Whatever that support looks like, ask them what they need. And if they say they don't need anything, do it anyway. Take them food. Take them a meal. And then they'll say, oh, thank you. And they might want another meal. So whatever that woman needs, or parents, spouses, do that for them.
So, what's one piece of advice that you would want to share with a first time parent?
Ask for help and don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to let people in. I was so afraid to let people in, like, my space, but I knew I needed the support. But once you open up the door to the support, people will provide it. I think people are more willing to help you than what we think. And so opening up that door and saying, hey, I need the support, people will give it to you. And then give yourself time. This time around, I knew I needed time to heal. I knew I needed to sit down. I knew I needed to eat. And I knew I wasn't about to be on no snapback hustle. I knew that. I was like, nope, I'm not about to go to the gym. I'm not pushing this to double stroller up and down a hill. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to relax. And that's what I did. And I have enjoyed this experience so much more because I have just breathed. I took my time to breathe. I took my time to be me. And I was like, anyone who doesn't want that, oh well. And it has been a game changer in my life and my husband's because his stress level is not, he's not stressed because I'm not stressed. Like and so when everything is balanced and in unison, like people can feel those energies. And because I haven't been stressed, he hasn't been stressed either. Um, and so I would say to any first time family or parent, check in. I've been reading Michelle Williams' book, Checking In, and it's good to have those check ins because just like I was going through postpartum depression, so was my spouse. He wasn't going through postpartum depression, but he was struggling because he didn't like to see me in the state that I was in, and he didn't know how to help. And because he didn't know how to help, it was like it was stressing him out too. So I think it's so important that on both levels that you seek support for both you and your spouse.
And that's a real thing. I was actually going to touch on that when you were done, but you hit it. Like, I have conversations with people all the time, and I'm like, you go through things, and your partner as well are going through those things. They're trying to navigate this new thing as well with you, postpartum depression, even like so for instance, I probably say this every unfiltered postpartum, which is, I consistently have clients where I'm like, yeah, totally. So I start to give them the it's called the scale, but
Mm-hmm.
I try to screen them as soon as I get with them, and then I continue to do so every week. And then once it gets, I think after the first or second time that I'm screening them, leading up to, okay, let's talk about lactation, let me educate you on whatever, I'm like, I need to chat with your partner, is that okay? And if I chat with their partner, I'm also screening them as well, because a lot of times the partner is showing signs of things as well. And so when you think about that and you realize that it's just kind of like, it's not easy. Like, it's okay to
Mm-hmm.
ask for support. It's okay to have those tools readily available for you. Like, you need to tap into your postpartum toolbox and bring those things out so you can be be the best that you could possibly be.
Yeah.
Babe will always be great as long as you're great. And that's the number one thing. I'm so glad this second experience was so good for you, because I do know from your blog posts and again from your advocacy, you talked about how the first pregnancy and postpartum experience was a bit of a struggle. So it's good to hear. And y'all, she's living it. She's
Yeah.
telling you because she's living it. She's literally within it.
Mm-hmm.
So let's do a fun question real quick, kind of lighten it up a little bit. So, what is your favorite go-to snack right now?
Oh, so right now I would say strawberries and graham crackers, and I have to hide them because Clarkson is the snack thief. If there was a snack thief meme, it would be his face. He will come in and steal my snacks. The other day, I had a pound cake, a slice, and I caught him eating it. So, but strawberries and graham crackers are my go-to, and I have to hide them from my 3-year-old because he takes them. He takes my food.
He is so cute, and he has so much his personality, even just for pictures, is
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah, he's alive.
My go-to right now, it was chocolate covered, dark chocolate covered almonds, and then I bought so many of them, and now I'm tired of them. But right now, I'm eating seaweed, like the little seaweed sheets.
Oh yeah, I used to get those from Sprouts. Those are good.
I got mine from Traders, and I'm like really
Hmm.
into them. So I'm like, okay, I look weird eating them because I'm like, I'm trying to put them in my mouth.
Yeah.
But
Hmm.
those are my go-to right now. Eventually, I'll get tired of them too, because I'll buy so many at one time, thinking like, yeah, this is my thing. But okay, so my last question for you is, what made you get into? Well, we kind of answered this, but let's go into it a little bit more. What made you get into advocating for perinatal mental health for specifically Black parents and Black moms?
Well, 1 in 3 women of color will experience some form of postpartum depression, anxiety, and mood disorders, and less likely to seek any form of treatment. So, meaning we will have the signs and the symptoms, and we won't go seek support. And I was one of those people. Someone even like encouraged me to go, and I was like, I'm not going. I'm fine. What do you mean? And then I was not fine. And so because for me in particular as a black woman, that strong black woman trope that we carry so pridefully, but it is also one of the most damaging things that can ever happen to us is having that strong black woman trope and then not seeking the support that you need. But because so many women are black women in particular, because so many they push that onto us, that stereotype, and because that stereotype of the strong black woman is pushed onto us, we don't go seek guidance, we don't go seek the support that is needed. So that was one of the reasons I wanted to show, like, hey, like, we need support, we have feelings, we are emotional creatures, just like you. Another reason for me in particular was just like my experience, my hair loss, the journey of that was a struggle. The moment I sat in my I went to the dermatologist. The moment I sat in my dermatologist chair and I was like, my hair's not growing. Like, I need, what is going on? And she looked at me and she was like, well, what are you doing? You know, what's your patterns? What's your life? What are you doing? And I was like, well, I just had a baby. And she was like, no, you're 6 months. Like, the baby's 6 months. There's more. And I was like, well, I'm in school, I'm working full time. And she's like, your load is too much. She said, you're carrying too much on you after 6 months of having a baby. You need to cut down some of the things that you're doing. But in my mind, I was fine. I felt, in my mind, I felt fine, but my body was telling me no. My body was rejecting everything I was doing. My body was saying stop. And instead of me stopping, I kept going. And it's that strong black woman, for me, trope. It was like, I can do it all and I don't need to stop. I'm fine. And I wasn't fine. And so being able to put my guard down was one of the reasons to start the blog, to show women that it's okay to have emotions, that it's okay to cry, it's okay to feel, was for me like my passion, what drove me to really start the blog and continue to tell my story and then continue to show joy too, because I think it's important to show all aspects of your life, because even though sometimes there's pain, it's also good to show the rainbow. And so the blog, that's what it does.
Um, being overly resilient, no, we have to. I say this all the time. You'll probably see this. Y'all probably have seen this already. I will make sure people know I refuse to be overly resilient anymore. Period. At all. We already have so much we have to go through and we have to navigate. We have to live through as Black women, and all on top of that, reproductive wise and pregnancy wise and parent wise. You want me to continue to be resilient? No, 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 I can't do that. But so with the Shea Mom blog, you would say that doing that was a bit therapeutic for you, being able to express
Yes,
yourself.
I definitely say that my blog has been very self-healing for me. And I think it's been self-healing for the people who watched what I had experienced. I think it, for them to see me overcome this journey. For me, in my perspective, no one has told me, but I think it gives them, hope and healing too. And I'm big into understanding like research and what that does. And there's not a lot of research out there that shows what happens to women, just women in general, postpartum. So you go to your 6 week checkup, and after that, you don't go back. There's nothing that happens through that time period unless you go for your annual to your OBGYN. That's it. So there's no research from the time after you have a baby on what happens to women's bodies, what happens to our mind. There's nothing. And because there's no research, no one knows. And so if we stop sharing our stories, then we stop the research. But if we continue to press the issue, then there's going to be more of an opportunity for advocates, for policy change, for people to say, how can we support women through the postpartum period? What do they need? What do they need training on in terms of staff in the hospitals? What do doctors need to do? What assessments need to happen before the woman leaves the hospitals? Education in terms of training. So we do breastfeeding support groups. We will go in, there's a lactation consultant. Why isn't there a consultant on your mental health in the hospital? If we can have a lactation consultant, why can't we have a consultant on your mental health to come in? It should happen. There's money out there for it. There's resources. And so I think if we continue to talk about it, then we can continue to lobby for things and changes in hospitals that are needed. Me and my husband, hands down, if there was a class that was provided for free, we were there. During that whole entire time, not one person mentioned in those classes postpartum depression, anxiety, or mood disorders. Not once. And so if we continue to tell our stories, we continue to do all these things, then we can start having these trainings in the hospitals that are free, so people can have access to the knowledge to say, hey, not only do you need to talk about breastfeeding and have a lactation consultant, but you also need to talk about your mental health and what happens after you have this baby and what may happen to you. Because though I could afford the therapy, there's people who can't. There's people who don't have the access. And so using my channel, my page for those people who can't is like my driving tool, and it will continue to be always, because I know there's another side, and that alone helps me and guides my practice and guides how I do my blog, is because I definitely know that everyone doesn't have the opportunities that I have been afforded. So yeah, sorry, I went on a rant.
No, you're fine, because I want everyone to know that lactation, you know, the portions that, like you said, are readily available. So those childbirth classes, those breastfeeding classes at the hospitals and at the centers, whatever the case may be, it's not separate. They're interchangeable. They're like literally connected. Like they coincide with one another, mental health and lactation, which is why the postpartum clinic was created, right? Because lactation and mental health during postpartum, they're right here. Like they're not separate. And again, something else that you said is that if we stop telling our stories, because the research doesn't exist, it doesn't. Like no matter what you try to Google, no matter how many Johns Hopkins articles you try to look at, they just don't exist. CDC as well, it just doesn't exist. The only thing that they say is baseline the percentages of women that are affected by postpartum depression and anxiety. So you're right, we have to create community research projects essentially. And within that, like the postpartum clinic, I created it to where in order for me to do what I need to do for these women, for these fathers, for these parents, for these birthing people, postpartum folks, I have to research from the community, and then the community will tell me what they need. I can't create programming. I can't create services and classes and all of that without the input from the people that it's going to actually help. Otherwise, I'm creating a world that doesn't exist and also will not ever help anyone, period. It's just something to do. And it shouldn't be that way, especially when you're talking about Black maternal and Black infant health. So, anywho.
Yeah, cause, I mean, that's true, because in all honesty, it starts the moment the woman finds out she's pregnant. That moment is when the mental health assessments need to happen. Because if we're honest, not all women are going, or not all people are going to therapy prior to developing a family. I wasn't going. And so I'm not going to be oblivious to be like, oh, we're all going to therapy. Like, no, it's not happening. So, because that's not happening, the moment that a woman finds out, she should start. And the doctor should talk about the mental health and say, do you have a support group? Do you have a community who, in the event throughout this pregnancy and after, if you start changing, if your personality starts changing, your mood swings, anything about you, you need someone who can point it out and say, hey, are you okay? And you have to develop that. And, you know, it's hard, especially if you are in a different state, you're away from family. This pandemic, like, made it even worse because everyone was scared to be around different people because, you know, you didn't know who was carrying what. And so it's hard, right? But I definitely say, like, you need someone who knows you, who's able to be like, hey, are you okay? I'm like, what's going on? And for me, I hit it very well. So I think it was probably very hard for anyone to see it. It was like a slow progression. But for anyone else, I think building your support from day one, the moment you find out, is key.
You're right. We don't realize that we have learned behaviors even before the pregnancy. So imagine pregnancy and postpartum coming around. Like, our learned behavior as Black women is, like
Mm-hmm.
we keep saying, like this strong Black woman, this overly resilient person.
Yeah.
We hide it quite well. It's really easy to hide stress as a Black woman. It's really easy. It comes out
Mm-hmm.
in other ways. So your hair is falling out, but girl, we'll throw on a wig and real quick.
Mm-hmm.
I'll throw on makeup real quick. Yeah, so it's really easy to hide sometimes. And yeah, you're right. There should be someone close to you, or you should have a support system, even if they're not a family member or a friend, that can, you know, check in with you and tap into you and say, okay, let's ask these specific questions, which is why being screened is so important. I know that during my training, they're like, you really should be screening folks within their, when they start their third trimester, because
Yeah.
waiting until you see the huge colossal signs, which is what, 3 months within their postpartum period, and then you're saying, okay, let's navigate and tap into this thing and try to help them out. It's absurd. And it's
Yeah.
not the fault of the pregnant person. It's not the fault of the postpartum person. It's the system. It's this wellness system, this health system, the hospitals, the medicalization of just certain things that doesn't allow us to thrive. And it's really, really, really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Someone said, so true. They should have a list of contacts in the area for therapists and support groups at the first appointment. True. I don't know what the thing is when it comes to, I do know. Well, I have an idea when it comes to not providing referrals. There's this thing where more often than none, people won't refer out, especially if you're a person of color, because now we have biased care. And
Mm-hmm.
so they either assume you don't have anything going on, and you're just being the whiny Black person who just wants XYZ element up here, and you're completely ignored. Um,
Mm-hmm.
or it's a biased care where they think that they can help you. So it's a savior complex, and they won't allow you to know that there are other options and things like that. So, for example, no shade, but just for example, pediatricians, and when it comes to lactation, a lot of times they're giving you advice and all of these things. Someone just commented the other day on one of the clinic's posts talking about how their peds said that they should stop breastfeeding because they're pregnant. And I'm like, huh? This literally doesn't make sense. Like, you're perfectly fine unless you're high risk. Then there's something
Mm-hmm.
to be talked about. But if they didn't give you any information, and being an older in maternal age while you're pregnant doesn't necessarily mean you're high risk. Like, we have to vet these people, and you can vet your doctor. You can change them. You
Mm-hmm.
can ask them for a referral, and if they don't have something, put that on the list of red flags that you have. But also, that's the responsibility, I think, too, of the community of people that can support you. So the perinatal mental health specialist, maybe they need to reach out to OBs, because unfortunately we have to meet people where they're at. And
Yeah.
it's nothing bad to want to be part of hospitals. It's not a bad thing. You just have to be on alert, and you just have to know what to ask for, what questions to ask,
Mm-hmm.
how to, you know, understand bodily autonomy, how to understand just certain things. It's okay to want to be part of these big, beautiful hospital spaces, but look at their percentages, girl. Ask them questions. You know, all those
Yeah.
things are important. You have resources like PSI. Gretchen, I know you're part of the board of PSI here in Alabama, where they have free support groups. Gretchen has a online Facebook community. It's a private group where you can go in and really, you know, chat and share things with moms, things like that. And I think one of the good things about social media right now, especially since the pandemic started, a lot of things have become a bit more virtual, and we're kind
Mm-hmm.
of tuned in into it a little bit more. And so that's a great way to source those things. But what's your name? Shawnee. Shawnee, thank you so much.
Sean.
Um well, this has been a really good chat, and I'm super excited that you were able to take time out of your day with your active little ones to chat with me. Why don't you tell the people again who you are, where they can find you, any projects that you have coming up? Let them love on you, girl.
Yeah, so I'm Gretchen again. Hello to people that are just joining. I created the Shea Mom blog. It will be a year, like at the end of June. And so I am so excited to continue to share my journey of postpartum depression and anxiety and mood disorders, and then just sharing how I overcame, healing, and all the cool things that we have been doing with Clarkson, our little arts and crafts. And we've been doing a little bit of fashion and marriage. And so that has been fun. It's truly been a really fun experience for me and my husband to do this together. Hey, LaShawn. Thank you for joining. And so I've enjoyed this experience. Some days I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm putting all my business out there for the world. And other days I'm like, yeah, I'm doing it, but it's helping someone else. And so it's been an exciting journey for me as a Black woman to share the spaces that I was in. I mean, when I talk about creating the Shea Mom blog, because I was the only Black woman, I was the only one. And like, that's real talk. It was just me. And I was like, where everybody at? I know I'm not the only Black person that's having these experiences. I was the only one in those spaces. And so it's been great to start to share my story and finding other Black women who have similar stories. I think that has really helped me, is like through opening myself up and starting my blog, I found other women who share similar stories. Because for a while there, I was like, oh God, I'm the only person who has anxiety and depression. And I think people confuse it, because I love Clarkson. Like, I love my baby. I love being a mom. That was not it. It was hormonal issues going on with me that I could not control. And so being able to see other Black women who had the same thing, and they were like, girl, I shaved it off. Like, you had a little bit of hair, I shaved it, I cut it, I said bye. And that to me has helped me a lot. And so another reason why I continue to share, because I have found hope and healing in seeing other women who look like me, who made it through and that are thriving. And that has been so much joy for me, is realizing that I am one of millions, you know? And I think that when we go through our dark days of depression, anxiety, we think we're alone, and we're not. And that has really helped me.
Well, thank you so much, y'all. If you are experiencing, or you feel like you're experiencing postpartum depression or anxiety at anything of the sort, and maybe you want to just sit in on something to really see if that's you, remember that it can tap into you 6 months, 8 months, a month before you give birth.
Mm-hmm.
Contact your local PSI chapter. That includes also if you're navigating pregnancy loss. Postpartum depression, anxiety can still come in. So I do believe I'm leading some free support groups for PSI soon. So we'll put that information down below. And of course, you can totally check out thesheamom.com, follow the Shea Mom at the Shea Mom, and get into all of Gretchen's goodness. I did see your fashion reel that you did with your husband. I was like, okay, girl.
Yes, y'all check it. Hey, let me tell you, we worked hard on that. I'm a member of a sorority, and so I literally took it back to my old stomping grounds, and I was in my dad's living room teaching my husband the dance moves, and then we went and we did it, and yeah, it was fun. We've been having fun.
It was cute. Y'all are having fun. You can tell y'all are having fun. It's good to see. It's I think it's good to balance out all of the Black trauma and sadness sometimes with a lot of good, vibrant
Yes.
Black joy. So thank you so much again for joining me.
Thank
Again,
you
you
for
all
having
can
me.
check out thesheamom.com, her blog. And of course, if you have any questions or you need to reach out for any reason when it comes to postpartum depression and anxiety, or whatever you think that you might be navigating, you can totally send us a DM or an email or whatever the case may be. It has been an amazing time chatting with you, and I will see all of y'all soon. I'll see you soon too.
All right. Bye. Thank you so much.
No problem. Bye, y'all.
Bye.